Today we're going to talk about our CNC cut parametric spice pullout for Mozaik, available in our web store. Let's get into it. Thanks for watching. Today we're going to talk about our awesome parametric spice pullout, available now in our web store. Let's get into it. Okay, so at hillcrestcabinets.ca, which will be linked in the description below, you're going to want to hit the downloads, and we're selling them for $150 Canadian because we did take a lot of time developing this spice pullout, and we've been using it for several years now, and we've sold absolute heaps of these things. They're so nice that you don't have to order the special sized specially sized inserts for a spice pullout. You just sell a spice pullout and you drag and dump it in. We're putting them in base cabinets, parametric in width, parametric in height. You can make it work for even a full height, like tall pantry, and just modify the amount of upper shelves that it exports. We definitely have done that before. If you did have to get a shallower one or deeper, well, deeper wouldn't qualify, but if you wanted to go shallower with it, you could easily just export the parts, manually adjust them in the optimizer. I'm not going to get into that, but it's an option for you, or you can just cut them down on the table saw or whatever in depth. We have done that once before because the involvement in getting an insert like this set up was so significant. It's just a lot faster to manually manipulate the parts that export. Click the downloads. It'll take you here. As you can see here, it's giving you your tandem undermount slides and your side mount slides. We use only one side mount 550 slide for stabilizing the top. There's a very specific reason for this, and that's a lot of times customers you'll have it set at a certain height, and if you want to change it and you've used undermount slides for the top stabilizer, you render it unable to change the height of the higher shelves. Whereas in this case, while it does drill the holes in the gable for you, you can easily unscrew it and move that top shelf up or down to wherever you want to, and just manually drill wood screws into the side of the cabinet. We find that way more flexible as far as dealing with the customer side of things. So that's why we've used one side mount slide on the top and two tandem undermount slides for the bottom. So the tooling that you're going to require for this is a 5mm drill. You definitely already have this. If you don't, how are you making cabinets? The secondary sort of optional one would be the 20mm drill. And if you don't have a 20mm drill, Mozaik will automatically pocket out these holes with whatever dado bit you have in your tool set. So you don't necessarily need a 20mm drill bit to take up a tool in your rack. We use these Rafix or Titus 20mm connectors in our build library currently. So we have a 20mm drill bit in our tooling already. So we use it, but you don't necessarily need it. You don't even have to do anything extra as long as you have a dado bit set up in your tool set. It'll automatically pocket out the bigger hole. So once you've downloaded this, you're going to get something similar to, you're going to get a download that's going to contain folders such as this. So you have an EXP file. This is the file that contains all the parts, information, and everything that would be required to import it into Mozaik. Then you have this SKP file, which is it's not an exact representation. It's just a SketchUp file of a spice pullout, just for representation sake to the customer, so they can see what you're kind of preparing to build. Then you have this instructions text. All this is going to tell you is what you need to do. I'm going to go through this anyways, so it tells you to copy over the SketchUp file, open Mozaik, make some money. You're going to get this imported. You're going to go to libraries, inserts, and then I got this wonderful little import button right here. I already had this open, so it's going to navigate here automatically, but you're going to have to find whatever folder you've downloaded our download into. Go into that folder, double click the EXP file. It says I already have one because I did bring one in already. So this is what's going to happen. You're just going to drop it in. You'll automatically have all these shelf heights, higher sides. It's currently set up as a 2-shelf spice pullout. If you wanted to add an extra shelf, really all you have to do is, let's just shred there, bring this a little wider. So the way we've named this, it's a kind of a little confusing, but also I couldn't think of a better way to do it. You, in the comments, leave me a better way to do it because I'm sure there is. So anyways, we have pull out bottom sides. So this is the very bottom and then the sides of the very bottom. You get 2 of those, and then you get a front and back, and then you have the higher sides bottom and a higher sides, pull out higher sides. So that's the upper shelves. So if you wanted to add more shelves and make it a 3 spice pullout, or like I said, if you wanted to dump this into a tall cabinet and you have, maybe you want to have 6 shelves, you can double click this. You can do this here, or you can do it also when you've added it to the to a cabinet as well. So you're just going to change your quantity here to however many bottoms you need. So maybe you need 5 bottoms. Assuming you need 5 bottoms, you would then go here and you would say you need 10 of those. So let's click OK, and make sure you save this in the library that you want to save it into before you hit the import button. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Okay, so we're going to click OK. So we've now imported it into Mozaik. We're going to go into a job and just make a new, we'll just call it pullout, just for sake of testing this. So we're not actually importing a cabinet because we want this to be way more modular than just dumping in a pullout cabinet. You can use this in many different ways. So we dump in a wall. I'm just going to add a random door cabinet here. Now, let's be honest, I don't know how well this would work with a face frame style. You are at your own discretion to see if this will work properly with a face frame. I believe it's calling up the open height and the open width when it's building the parameters to make the spice pullout. So you're going to have to spacer out the sides. I guess you'd normally do that if you're using a face frame, but I believe it actually would work with a face frame. Never been tested before. If you want to be the first one to try it, let me know, and maybe we'll be able to work out a bit of a discount, and then we can see how well it works. Send me some pictures and stuff. We'll go from there. So, like I said, we're working on frameless style. That's typically what Hillcrest Cabinets builds. We're going to go to the interior tab. Just clear it out. You're going to click that open space. Then you go to your inserts. Wherever you save that, whatever library you save that in, click this little plus button right here. And you're going to drag in 2 to 3 shelf pullout, which is one we just made. Drop it in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our 3D view, perspective. So as you can see, it's dumped in a generic spice pullout. I wasn't going to build a 3D model for this. I think that's enough representation for a customer to see. And then we're going to go left side view. So I'm just going to hit the layers here, and I'm going to remove the inserts. This way we can see the drilling we're getting. You're getting 5mm drilling for the, so what we use is DTC, but the drill pattern is the same as a tandem undermount slide. You can use any undermount slide that has the same drilling pattern as a Blum undermount, 550. So that's the drilling we're getting here. Up here we're getting Accuride, or whatever side mount ball bearing slide drilling you want. This is also made for DTCs, but it also works with the Accuride slides for this drilling pattern here. Also 550s. We find that put a soft close ball bearing side mount here. and that will, with that pull action, it'll pull in the top better. If you don't use a soft close on the top, it won't pull it in quite as much at the top. So make sure you put a soft close up top. And only on one side too. You don't need to put it on both sides. In fact, if you put it on both sides for this ball bearing one, it's going to just cause you more issues than if you just put one. You really just need it for stabilization. The bottom set of slides are going to work out. The bottom slides are going to work out for taking all the sort of distribution of the weight. Another thing to consider is if I've done this before where I've had a cabinet that was so skinny that I couldn't use two sets of slides at the bottom. So we ended up just gluing the bottom and the middle really well and only using one side mount, or one undermount and one side mount up here. That way we could squeeze it in this little skinny cabinet. And that seemed to work really, really well also. So if you get too skinny to fit two undermount slides in here, just do one undermount on one side and then one side mount to carry the top weight. And it seems to work quite nicely. So you get your drilling here. Another thing you're going to want to do is go to the face tab. And what I usually do is I'll make this just a drawer front. So it's just a standard drawer front panel. But you can also make it a door and then just delete the handle and the hinge drilling. So you could just change this to none. Depending on which way you want to orient your grain, if it's a door and you have stained wood or whatever, it's got grain on it, wood grain, you would want to probably set it as a door. If you set it as a drawer, the grain orientation will follow the drawer style. So just keep that in mind when you're setting this up as well. So now that you've dropped that in there, you now have your splice pullout set up and ready to go. I'll go to the parts. I've ran them as purple so that they highlight differently when you're importing it. So you can see the different colored parts here are your splice pullout parts. So if you want to add more shelves, you either have to do it in that insert menu, or it won't actually update here. You will not get the proper update. You would have to do it in the optimizer. Once the parts have been optimized, you add more shelves to it. Alternatively, just copy it in that insert library and dump and make more in the quantity area. Otherwise, this will tend to follow what you've set up in your library part. Okay, so let's take a look at the parts you're actually receiving here. So we'll start with the bottom. So we'll go to the very bottom. So this is, let's go to edit shape. The pullout bottom, the very bottom of this pullout is just a rectangle. This is the only part that has no defining features on it. So just keep that in mind. This is the bottom. This is the very bottom of the cabinet, or sorry, the pullout. And there's really no banding or anything that has to happen to this one. Okay. Then the sides that attach to the bottom, we're going to go pull out bottom sides. On this one, you have dados on each end. These dados are calling up the drawer side thickness, and this is going to export as drawer parts. So as you can see, the type is drawer side. So as long as you have drawer boxes set up, you won't have any problems getting this to work properly. So you get dados on the front, dado on the back. It's reversible side for side, so it doesn't really matter. And then you have a full dado for the bottom. And you have two of those. So one goes on each side. For the higher shelf bottom, so where this is different from the other shelf, the bottom of the lower shelf, is it has these 20mm bore holes. So this is to utilize Rafix or Titus connectors, and you'll see in the future why this comes into play. So we purchased these Titus connectors from Richelieu. They are available in many different finishes, different colored finishes. This example is the brown version. So also comes in different panel thicknesses. So our setup is specifically made for 5/8 material or 16 millimeter material, based on the fact that the undermount slides require 16 millimeter or 5/8 material. So you're going to want to make sure you have this one selected if you're purchasing it from Richelieu. That being said, the way that these work are you're going to receive two parts. You have this expanding dowel. So this just pushes into the front and back. You'll see that in the future. And this part here drops into the bottom from the higher shelves. So you need 4 of those for every higher shelf you use, and 4 of the expanding dowels. So that would be the higher shelves bottom, and another part would be the higher shelves sides. Oh, that would be the door. So you just get one side of the upper shelf with one dado that goes right through. There's no dados on the end. All right, so then the last part would be the front and back. This is the part that has a lot of action going on. Sorry, the door wants to. So there's a lot of formulas going on keeping all these in the right location. You get these holes, which are the corresponding Titus hole in the front and back. You get these 3 holes right here, which are pre-drills for screws in order to screw it in. Do not confuse these 1/4-inch holes with the screw holes, because you're just going to blow out your bottom. These are meant for pushing they're used to receive the pin, I guess you could say, that is at the back of an undermount slide. So you do not put a screw in this hole or this hole. Okay, so that's pretty much the Mozaik side of things. How to get it working. It's pretty straightforward. Let's head over to the CNC machine so we can see this in action. So here we are at the optimizer. We've ran this complete cabinet with the Spice Pullout insert included. For this case, we're not going to actually run the cabinet parts itself. We just don't need it for this one, but we'll show you in the end how it comes together fully. not that pretty. So just with a chisel, knock these corners out. It's pretty straightforward. We'll end up using a sanding block just to clean up that edge a little bit. Just makes for a nice cleaner look on that top edge. So these parts here are the top shelves, the sides of the top shelves, as you can see there, pull out higher sides. No dados on the front and back. This part here is the bottom with your tightest holes. Pull out higher sides, or higher shelves bottom. So you're going to want to make sure those are flush when you're installing them right across. This would be the bottom. Pull out bottom, so the very bottom of the pullout. These labels show the part type, so your label will differ from mine, but if you do use labels, it will show the part type on them. These parts here are the bottom sides with the dados on the front and back. So the first thing you're going to want to do is assemble the bottom, what would be the shelf on the bottom. When you put this dado in, I usually dry fit it just to make sure everything's working properly. You're going to want to make sure that the edge of the bottom is flush with the edge of that rabbet. Nice and flush there. So flipping it around here, again we're going to test fit the bottom into the sides. Now this is strictly a glue joint here, so you're going to want to make sure that you glue that dado on both sides right across. The next thing I like to do is just to make sure that these side walls are nice and square. I'll measure off the width while it's dry fit, and then I'll just find some scrap material, it doesn't matter what, and I'll cut it to that width just as a brace to hold it square while it's being glued up. So this one here, I just cut it to length, and now I'm cutting two little spacer blocks out of that one piece. Now we're going to take this back here. Now it's glue up time. You don't necessarily need a whole ton of glue. I prefer to make sure it's not squeezing out everywhere, unless we're doing kind of Baltic birch or something like that. So you just need a little bit of glue to hold it on there. I'm going to glue both sides. Again, you want to make sure that's nice and flush at that rabbet. Going to glue this other edge. Again, triple checking that's flush to the rabbet edge. So now take your spacer blocks you just cut and just wedge them in at the top. Again, checking this is flush because you really don't want it to dry up, not flush. Set your second spacer block in there. Check this for being square.
5 minutes later.
This part's done, throw it off to the side, move on to the next part. Hardware. They also have these wedge fix style Titus, but we prefer to use these ones with the metal locking style, just to make sure it's more secure. These ones just push in. You don't really require a hammer or anything. While that's nice, it's just not as secure as when you have the full-blown ones that you hammer in. I should note that the edge banding assignments are set up for this as well, so it'll show you if you're printing the labels where you need to edge band these parts. So that just drops in there. Make sure that you're putting the Titus facing the bottom. You don't want it to be facing the top. Titus is just what we call them, but RAFX I think is also the equivalent version. So throw the clamp on there. Again, you're going to do your measuring across. I'll usually use the same blocks, run over and snip them down because the top shelf is just a little bit shorter than the lower one. So now it's time to glue these guys up. Same procedure as the other time, and every time you have an extra upper shelf, you'll be following this secondary portion of the video each time. It's the same thing for each upper shelf. Again, make sure that these Titus are facing the bottom, which is the shorter side of the dado. Apologize if this seems kind of long. I just wanted to kind of be very thorough. I know everyone's got different skill sets, and I wanted everybody to be able to do this without any questions. Here we have the pull-out front and back. You get two completely reversible panels. Just makes it a bit easier. These three holes are for your screws, and those two holes are to accept the undermount pins at the back. Hardware you need, this would be your undermount slides. This would be the pin that we're talking about for the back of the drawer to accept. Once everything's screwed together, it just falls into that little hole there. So make sure you don't put any screws in this hole. Same on both sides. So now you want to grab that pull-out bottom with the dados in the front and back. Next you want to grab your front and back, and making sure that the line bore is facing the inside, you're going to insert it into the rabbets on the bottom of the pull-out. So I usually like to start at the top because you can wiggle it in easier, and then just slide it down all the way to the bottom. We're going to have to push it back up to make it flush with the bottom after, but it's just easier to get it kind of started. So as you can see, your pre-drills are kind of showing there. You just want to push that up until it's perfectly flush with the bottom, just like that. Then you can go ahead and put your pre-drills into the bottom. I'm saying it again, don't put the screw in those holes. I don't know how many times I train people and they always tend to think that's the hole to put it in. Do not put it in those holes. Only in the 3 center ones, or however many you think you need. We just use 1.5" assembly screws here. That's just what we use to assemble cabinets as well. So it's just an easy way to do it. So then you're going to use this little pre-drill on the side, and again fire a screw in that hole. You may want to use a fast cap or something to cover that, or a screw cover cap, whatever, to cover that hole. Then you're going to flip it around and repeat that process on the other side. Now grab your other front or back
and repeat that exact same process on this side. It's completely the same part, so it doesn't really matter which side you do, but put them together exactly the same way. Feel free to countersink these holes too on the sides as well. It's up to you to decide how you want to finish those off. So that's the main part of the pull-out bottom assembled and complete. So here I have an undermount slide. I just want to show you how these pins lock in. They're going to slide in underneath and it just pops into that hole right at the back. So as you can see, you have your parametric line bores ready to go here. Next step is just to add that upper shelf or however many upper shelves you have. If you're adding 3 shelves, you may not be able to use the pre-drilled holes in the side of the cabinet. You might have to just use a square and screw on the ball bearing slide wherever your upper shelf lands. So you're going to pop these little tightest holes in and just count from the top down however many you're at, just to make sure it's the same, exact same principle as when you're putting shelf pins in. And then you're going to take your upper shelf portion. As you can see, those 20mm holes have plastic connector fastener installed in it. So then you're just going to drop it down. Sometimes it needs a bit of like a bop to get it into the right location. Then you're just going to give these guys a little twist with the Phillips screwdriver just to lock it in. So the last step here to get this ready for install is to install your undermount fixing clips, and whatever undermount slides you're using, just use the clips that go with it and just make sure they're flush to that bottom edge there, or to the front edge I should say. Okay, this is not the same cabinet, but it's another spice pullout inside a cabinet. So as you can see, we got our ball bearing slide there, and that just carries the load at the top and keeps it parallel. Thanks for watching. Have a great one.